If there's any pick I would like to walk back during my 2024 rankings video, it's the LA Rams. When I recorded that last video, the Rams were 5-6 and in no man's land until they rattled off 5 straight wins, won a playoff game, and were the only team in the league to give the Eagles a fit in the playoffs. Now they've swapped Cooper Kupp for Davante Adams, and knowing Sean McVay and Les Snead, one of the rookies they snagged will become an impact player too. I'm not sure they're a top contender in the NFC, but if there's anything I've learned last season, it's to never doubt a Sean McVay-led football team. This era of Cleveland Browns football might be the darkest it's ever been, and that's saying a lot. Like, a lot. Way to sacrifice whatever goodwill you had left for the worst quarterback in the league, guys. The only thing this team has going for it is the defensive line pairing of Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, and the initial promising returns of Shedeur Sanders. But other than that, yeah, this team is gonna be bad. Par for the course. Eliminated. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for the Atlanta Falcons for the last 2 years, and so far they have not rewarded me for it. I'd give them more credit for the Michael Penix find if they didn't give Kirk Cousins $180 million, which kneecapped their chances of doing anything serious in free agency, and because of that, they burned their 2026 first-round pick so they could get a pair of potential quality defenders in this draft. Atlanta could be good, but their offensive line cannot suffer any setbacks, what with Penix being a tree in the pocket. I see the upside for the Falcons, especially on offense, but I'm tempting my expectations. Playoffs, maybe. Next, we have the red-headed stepchild of Los Angeles sports in the Chargers. They lucked into a generational QB prospect in Justin Herbert and have only just now given him a head coach who knows what he's doing, and all things considered, making the playoffs at all while picking up the proverbial pieces left behind by Staley and Telesco is a job well done. Getting punched in the mouth in the first round against an opponent you are expected to beat on paper, though, is not. But I guess that's just the story of the Chargers' existence, isn't it? Regardless, I think Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris can be an electric running duo, but for a team with a lot of salary cap space, they weren't nearly aggressive enough. Oh, and who's their offensive coordinator? Yeah, that's what I thought. Good luck with that, guys. After so many years of coming so close, the 49ers window seems to have slammed shut in their face. They paid Purdy, and I won't open that can of worms here, but regardless of what you think of him, he's here to stay. The roster around him, though, is probably the weakest it's ever been with Purdy. Both CMC and Ayuk will be coming off serious injuries, and several starters from their Super Bowl team or teams are out the door with no refreshing new blood that draws a lot of confidence. I think the 49ers have some upside, so I won't completely rule out a return to the playoffs, but it's not looking so good. For the first time in what feels like ages, the Carolina Panthers ended the season with some promise. Bryce Young needed to be turned off and on again, but it looks like the upside of a star QB is there, and giving him Ted McMillan to throw to won't hurt either. They also made a ton of additions to shore up what was an atrocious defense in 2024. Whether or not Dave Canales is the coach moving forward is to be seen, but I think he can be. The Panthers probably need another year to bolster this team further before they think playoffs, but as long as David Tepper stays out of the way, there does seem to be a light at the end of a very dark tunnel. The Geno Smith era is over in Seattle, and frankly, I don't know what they're doing. Clint Kubiak could be a hit at offensive coordinator, but other than that, I just think this team got worse. I know he was a great story last year, but I'm sorry, I just don't think Sam Darnold is very good. I never have. Good on him for reviving his career and securing the bag, but from a football perspective, I just don't see how the Seahawks think this will change their fortunes. You move off of Geno and then throw 9 digits at a worse quarterback? Okay. Switching out DK Metcalf for Cooper Kupp might work, but Kupp also hasn't even cracked 850 yards since his historic 2021 season because of consistent injuries. Their defense could be good, especially with Mike McDonald coaching it, but what's this team's ceiling? 9 wins? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but sorry guys, I don't see it. Void. Not much to say about the Buffalo Bills that we don't all know already. As long as Josh Allen is there, Buffalo is in the race. They've come so close so many times, and we're even on the verge of a Super Bowl appearance in what was supposed to be a transitory year. With how stacked the AFC is, who knows if they'll ever get over the hump, but what I do know is that the Bills are firmly locked in as a Super Bowl contender. The Packers are another team that feels kind of stuck. Yes, they have some solid foundational pieces in Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, and a strong rotation of depth, but few players who I'd call superstars. And while they should be good this year, who do they add? Aaron Banks? Nate Hobbs? I guess they finally drafted a receiver in the first round. Good for them. If Golden is the next big thing at receiver, then the sky is the limit for Green Bay in 2025. If not, the Packers feel stuck in that good but not great category. They can be on the bubble, but just know that I don't think they're as good as the Rams. No matter how much they lose, no matter how dim things look, the Saints just won't tear it all down and rebuild. They're free from the Derek Carr contract, and it's to be seen what Kellen Moore will bring to the table as head coach, but I can't say I'm amped by a Tyler Show-led offense and a defense coordinated by Brandon Staley. It's alright, Saints fans, if they finally bottom out for real, Arch Manning could be in their future. Just don't butcher him like you did his grandfather, capiche? Well, fellas, it's time for the 12th Raiders philosophy shift since Al Davis died? I don't know, but people seem to be intrigued by these Raiders, and I don't blame them. Geno Smith, all things considered, was a solid pickup, and will easily be the best quarterback they've had since 2016 Derek Carr. Pete Carroll, I honestly thought he jumped the shark a while ago, but who knows? The Raiders are sick of spinning the 5-win tires and want to establish a winning window, which fair enough. They, like the Panthers, made a lot of additions on defense to surround Max Crosby with. I think snagging Jeremy Chin after a career year could be a really underrated find as well. I don't think reaching the playoffs is impossible, but if I had to guess, I'd say they miss by a game. If a couple of things break their way, I do think it could happen. I could go on and on about the Cowboys, but there's nothing I could say about them that you guys haven't already heard before. Brian Schottenheimer will totes turn this team around, guys. Just focus on his last name and not, anything on his resume. George Pickens will help this offense's home run potential, and I actually like the Tyler Booker pick at 12, even though it was universally thought of as a reach. But none of that is going to help this porous defense and the eternal meddling of Jerry Jones. Tupac has still missed 0 Cowboys NFC Championship appearances. Void. The sea seems to finally be opening for the Chicago Bears. Their shiny new quarterback has an offensive-minded coach who should be able to unlock something in him, and say what you will about Dennis Allen, but a defensive coordinator position suits him way better than his previous role. The offensive line got a whole lot better as well, which was one of Chicago's many problems last year. I don't love the Colston Loveland pick when running back was a huge need, but I guess neglecting that position isn't the end of the world. The sky's the limit for the Bears as far as I'm concerned, but will they reach it? I'm not certain that their strong offseason will translate into wins, but it can't get worse than their disastrous 2024 season. I think the playoffs are very much a possibility for the Bears. 2025 is probably the last dance for both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard on the Colts as far as I'm concerned. These guys strike me as another unit that's just trapped in the middle, and a lot of that boils down to them whiffing on the quarterback a couple of years ago. Anthony Richardson seems like a really nice guy, and I love to see him succeed, but man, it's an uphill battle for this guy to complete half his passes in a game. Who would have thought the guy that was inaccurate in college is inaccurate in the pros? Indianapolis has pieces, but unless Richardson takes that magical Josh Allen leap, they might need to pivot towards a rebuild. Rest in peace, Jim Irsay. From one void team to another, the Miami Dolphins have been the biggest tease in football over the last couple of years. That 70-point outburst they had against Denver a while back isn't going to do you any good when you can't play in cold weather. Tyreek Hill's best days are behind him, and Tua Tagovailoa is consistently either average on the field or injured and off the field. I still think he should have retired due to all of his head injuries by now. Jalen Ramsey's on his way out too. Enjoy another middling season. Why is Chris Greer still here again? The Patriots, on the other hand, I'm more optimistic about. I'm still baffled that the Titans got rid of Mike Vrabel in the first place, but New England might be the best place he could have gone. Josh McDaniels, aka Offense Dennis Allen, returning to the place he knows best should be a plus for them as well. I absolutely loved their draft, snagging a top offensive line prospect in Will Campbell, and how did Braden Swinson fall to the 5th round? I don't know, but I think he's going to be a great sleeper hit for that defense. I'm also really high on Drake May. It came in flashes, but the film does not lie. The dude can sling the ball with some mobility to boot. I hope I'm not jumping the gun on this one, but I really like New England's chances of returning to the playoffs. The Lions will be chomping at the bit in 2025 to get payback for their brutal end to last season, but frankly, I can see the regression coming from a mile away. Both coordinators are gone, and Kevin Zeitler's exit creates a hole on their offensive line that Tate Ratledge will have to patch up. The core of an elite offense is still there. How much it'll hurt from Ben Johnson's departure is to be seen, as will how Aiden Hutchinson will look following his return from a devastating leg injury. If he can play like he did in 2024, then their defense should be fine, but that's still an if. If Detroit is completely decimated by injuries again like they were last year, then it'll be time to give Dan Campbell's philosophy more of a critical eye. Regardless, despite the likely step back, Detroit should still firmly be a playoff team, and given their history, I think they'll take that. There are 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and the Cincinnati Bengals being the punching bag of the NFL offseason. Good on them for getting Chase and Higgins extended long term, but what do you know? The only bright spot on a horrific defense last year is in the midst of a contract dispute, and their first-round pick that they took with the intention of alleviating some of those defensive woes is also in the middle of a contract dispute. How you can have these kinds of issues with a rookie is beyond me, but leave it to the Bengals to find a way to look like an uncommitted franchise, no matter how much success they accidentally stumble into. I envision this season for them being a whole lot like last year. Burrow will spearhead an incredible offense that will have them in almost every game despite a putrid offensive line, but a horrific defense will hold them back from fulfilling their potential. With that being said, can I see this team in the playoffs? Absolutely. They did draw the short end of a lot of games decided by one or two plays. If the dice roll in their favor a bit more, I think a wild card spot is theirs for the taking. I wouldn't count on it though. The worst team in the league in 2024 did very little to make me think this season is going to be one to remember for Titans fans. Dan Moore, $82 million. That Dan Moore? Okay. Cam Ward, bless your heart, because you have quite the uphill battle ahead of you in Tennessee. You see, if I were the Titans, I would try to give my developmental QB a roster that's not the worst in the league to see if he's good or not before I throw another board in the water, but what do I know? I'm just a dude with a microphone. Will Levis didn't look good partially because he had no one to hand the ball off to, no one to throw to, and no one to block for him. So obviously the only way to fix that is by spending the first overall pick on a quarterback who will have no one to hand the ball off to, and no one to throw to, and no one to block for him. Whatever. Ward's potential alone will keep the Titans out of the bottom tier, but don't get your hopes up on this franchise adequately building around a franchise quarterback. Do I really need to go in a spiel about the Eagles? No? Okay, then I won't. They're the most stacked team in the league for a reason. They definitely made a lot of changes this offseason due to several departures on both the roster and coaching staff, but I trust Howie Roseman to fill the void. The Eagles, though, are in anything but the void. The Jaguars are interesting. They have a new offensive-minded coach, and they finally got rid of Balky for a new GM with an actual vision. Their first big move? Sacrifice next year's first-round pick for Travis Hunter. Time will tell if that pays off, but I think Jacksonville has some legitimate upside. If Trevor Lawrence actually takes that next step top picks are supposed to take, then I think a division title isn't out of the question, but that's still a big if. We'll see if Liam Cohen is actually this QB whisperer and not just a product of Baker Mayfield, but if it is the former, I think this team could be decent. I wouldn't count on a playoff appearance by any means, but I am willing to give this regime a fighting chance. The Broncos, for the first time in God knows how long, enter a season with legitimate expectations. Bo Nix, after a horrific start, ended up putting together a pretty solid rookie campaign with the help of Sean Payton. Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw should make an already great defense even better in 2025, and I'm a huge fan of the J.K. Dobbins pickup at running back. Their ceiling feels kind of capped due to sharing a division with the Chiefs, but I do think this team is the AFC West's best chance at dethroning Kansas City for that crown. Do I think that'll happen? Not necessarily, but the Broncos should be no joke this year. On the bubble. Oh, Giants. Nothing in the NFL screams competence like going 3-14 and then needing to clear cap space to sign your first-round pick. The most frustrating thing about this team is that it's not like there's no talent here. Dexter Lawrence, Malik Neighbors, Abdul Carter, and Andrew Thomas either are or have the potential to be brilliant NFL players. And Brian Daboll, at least in my opinion, is a really good coach. He's just working with one arm tied behind his back. I never thought it'd be possible that their next GM could be worse than David Gettleman, but damn it, Joe Shane, you just might have pulled it off. Now Mr. Limited is their quarterback going into 2025 with Jackson Dart waiting in the wings. We'll see if he becomes anything special, but if that Gruden clip is any indication, I wouldn't get my hopes up. Give it some time, I guess. The Vikings are loaded. Their defensive front is full of playmakers. The offense is full of difference makers. Arguably the best receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson is paired with one of the best wide receiver twos. And fresh off a 14-win season, the coaching staff remained intact. Obviously, the big change is at quarterback. Sam Darnold out, J.J. McCarthy in. I've never really been high on McCarthy. I'm never high on college game managers. But this roster is so loaded that he could just coast on that like he did at Michigan and still win a ton of games. So it's not like Minnesota needs him to be a superstar. I know it's easy to be hesitant to grade this team high due to their early playoff exit, but these guys all have the pieces to go far. It feels like in every decade, the Vikings put together an absolutely juiced roster and go on a deep playoff run only to suffer a devastating playoff loss. It's looking like that time, fellas. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I think they have a shot at it this year, so long as that secondary doesn't sink them. The Cardinals flew under the radar in 2024, improving from 4 to 8 wins with a steadily progressing roster. Jonathan Gannon, for my money, has done a pretty solid job as head coach and will have several new pieces added to his defense, including Josh Sweat, a key piece to Philadelphia's Super Bowl team last year. Will Johnson was a steal at corner in the second round of the draft as well. Kyler Murray seems locked in as a middle-of-the-road QB, but his athleticism will always give him at least some value as long as he has it. I don't think Arizona is going to be changing anyone's life, but I think the improvements on defense and a possible leap from Marvin Harrison Jr. could very well get them back in the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens, much like Buffalo, have been knocking on the door for years just waiting for it to fall over. They're as talented as any team in the league, but their volatility leaves them vulnerable to lose games they really shouldn't. Regardless, they're running back the team that went 12-5, won the AFC North, and was a tight end disaster class away from potentially being in the AFC Championship again. With one of the very best quarterbacks in football, the Ravens are in the Super Bowl mix, just like the Bills, and also just like the Bills, they're going to need to solve the Chiefs if they want to go all the way. And they need to figure out who's going to kick field goals, because, you know. Not much to say about the Kansas City Chiefs that you don't all know already. This team's floor is the AFC Championship, and that was just a one-year slide. These guys have practically lived in the Super Bowl in the 2020s, and I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking they're just going to do it again. A defense-first team that drags you into a low-scoring game until Mahomes and co. pull off some nonsense to steal a win will likely be their formula again in 2025, and it will almost certainly have them deep in the playoffs once again. Roster-wise, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are basically running it back again, with the exception of a splash acquisition of Hassan Reddick. I questioned it last year, but I do see the vision this time. Losing Liam Cohen stinks, but this offense should still be as lethal as it's been in prior years, with Baker Mayfield being the NFL's ultimate feel-good story, along with Bucky Irving running the rock and his receiving core looking as strong as ever. The defense leaves a lot to be desired, but hopefully for them, the aforementioned Reddick signing can give them that boost they seriously need. I like their odds to win the NFC South again and be a threat to go far in the playoffs. Do I like their odds to come out of the NFC? Not really. Do I think it's impossible? Not really. The only positive I can come up with regarding the New York Jets heading into 2025 is that they should be able to just exist without being an ass made out of themselves almost every week. Their 2024 season was one of the biggest train wrecks we've seen from a franchise in a long time, and almost all of it was centered around Aaron Rodgers. His replacement is Justin Fields, who will always be a better concept than he is a quarterback. You don't need me to inform you that the Jets will be bad this year, but hopefully it'll be drama-free. I think their fans would take that at this point. Aaron Glenn, you have a long road ahead of you. Best of luck. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, what do you know? It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, the NFL's version of the Chicago Bulls, just hanging around the 500 area, weaseling into the playoffs just to be beaten to a pulp once they're there. Is Aaron Rodgers going to magically solve all their problems? No. Is Aaron Rodgers an upgrade over Mason Rudolph? I think. Ultimately, Pittsburgh, like most of their teams since Roethlisberger's departure, will be reliant on their defense to win them games. TJ Watt is one of the few game wreckers at pass rusher that can single-handedly swing games. The Steelers will be competent like always, and will be unable to establish themselves among the elites of the AFC, like always. They'll probably win 9 or 10 games again, and it's up to fate to decide if that will be enough to get them into the playoffs. Regardless, the Super Bowl upside is not there. The darlings of last year were the Washington Commanders, and for good reason. To go from a walking punchline to a game away from the Super Bowl is the stuff of Hollywood. See what happens when you have competent ownership? The new superstar quarterback doesn't hurt either. Jayden Daniels was a rookie with the composure of a 10-year vet. He's got all the tools to be a potential Super Bowl quarterback. Laramie Tunsil should give their offensive line a big boost as well, and while I'm not a huge fan of Deebo Samuel, he is a perfect fit in this offense as a complementary piece. Here's my one concern with this team. Cliff Kingsbury did a great job as offensive coordinator last year, but he does have a history of being solved over time. He did a great job of easing Daniels into the role via screens and short passes, layups if you will. Over time, he got more confident and poised as a passer. This formula worked wonders in 2024. I don't think it will again, and it's up to Cliff to evolve. Will he? Time will tell. Either way, Washington should firmly be a Tier 2 contender this year. Finally, the Houston Texans. The sophomore slump got to C.J. Stroud a little bit, but the decimation of his receiving corps did him no favors, and Bobby Slowick going from a potential head coaching candidate to out of a job didn't help either. The Texans had another solid season that saw them win a playoff game, yet also be distantly behind the class of the conference. So, going into the offseason, the objective was clear. Get the pieces that can push you into that first tier. Get the pieces that will let you compete with the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens in the playoffs. So what did they do? Trade Laremy Tunsil, let Stephon Diggs walk away, hope you don't miss that second-round pick, and sign who? Cam Robinson, Derek Barnett, Sheldon Rankins? I don't know, guys. These moves don't strike me as ones made by a team that fancies themselves as contenders. I like the Texans' chances to win the AFC South again, unless Jacksonville hits their ceiling, but I cannot fathom a universe where the Texans break through the AFC playoffs. It seems like Houston is overly reliant on CJ Stroud taking that superhuman leap in year 3, which I don't think is impossible, but the Texans aren't really making his job any easier. They're probably a playoff team, but they're also probably a pretty easy out.